There is a quiet strength found in people who grew up during the 1970s. It is not loud or performative, and it rarely seeks attention. Yet psychologists and neuroscientists are only beginning to recognize how deeply that decade shaped a unique form of emotional resilience, self-trust, and mental clarity. Many modern discussions around childhood development assume that constant supervision creates safer, healthier adults. More monitoring, more structure, more involvement. But the lived experience of 1970s children challenges that assumption in important ways. Picture a typical morning from that era. A child finishes breakfast, grabs a jacket, and steps outside with a single expectation: return before nightfall. No location tracking, no scheduled activities, no digital communication. Just open time, open space, and the responsibility to navigate it. Hours were spent building imaginary worlds, solving problems without instructions, negotiating rules with peers, and learning through trial and error. When conflicts arose, children handled them directly. When boredom appeared, they faced it rather than escaping it. This style of upbringing was not neglect, it was trust. And modern brain research now shows that unstructured play plays a critical role in developing executive function. Skills like decision-making, adaptability, emotional regulation, and creative thinking. These abilities are strengthened not through constant guidance, but through freedom paired with accountability. Children of the 1970s also developed a heightened awareness of their environment. They learned to read situations quickly, which houses were welcoming, which ones were not, when it was safe to stay, and when it was wiser to move on. They understood tone, posture, and subtle shifts in mood long before those skills had names. Researchers now describe this as advanced social perception, but at the time it was simply awareness born from independence. Then there were the afternoons spent alone, the sound of a door unlocking after school, a quiet house, a few hours to manage independently. These moments built confidence in subtle ways, preparing a snack, completing homework, organising time without direction. Over time, this routine reinforced a powerful internal belief. I can handle this, not because someone said it, but because experience proved it. This belief is known in psychology as an internal locus of control, the understanding that your actions influence your outcomes. For many children of that generation, this mindset developed naturally. When something broke, they addressed it. When a mistake happened, they learned from it. Responsibility wasn't taught through lectures, it emerged through daily life. One of the most formative experiences, however, was boredom. Long stretches of unfilled time were normal. When children complained of having nothing to do, the response was simple: find something. There were no instant distractions, no quick fixes. Boredom became a doorway rather than a problem. From it came creativity, reflection, patience, and imagination. Today, boredom is often treated as something to eliminate immediately. But those who learned to sit with it discovered something valuable. Discomfort does not need to be avoided. Silence is not threatening. Not every moment needs stimulation. This early tolerance for stillness explains why many adults from this generation can remain calm during uncertainty, wait without agitation, and sit quietly with their thoughts. Their resilience was not built through pressure or intensity, but through space. Space to think, to fail, to adapt, and to grow. The 1970s did not create perfection, but it did cultivate a grounded kind of strength. One that listens more than it speaks, one that moves steadily rather than urgently, and one that remains deeply relevant in a world that rarely slows down. What researchers are now beginning to confirm is something this generation learned without realizing it. Regular moments of understimulation in childhood strengthen the brain. When the mind isn't constantly entertained, it turns inward. Creativity becomes active, reflection deepens. The ability to generate ideas without external input grows stronger. In simple terms, boredom trained the brain to create instead of consume. That brings us back to the physical world children once explored freely. The towering tree at the edge of the block, the one that seemed impossibly high until you climbed it anyway. You tested your balance on thick branches, learning how far your body could go before it needed to stop. You rode bikes at full speed down uneven roads, feeling the air rush past, learning how momentum worked, not from theory, but from instinct. You built ramps that wobbled, jumped gaps that looked questionable, and sometimes misjudged the landing. Injuries happened, scraped skin, bruises, and the occasional broken bone were part of the learning curve. But what formed beneath those experiences was something rare today, an internal understanding of risk. Not fear-based avoidance and not reckless behaviour, but discernment. You learned which dangers demanded caution and which challenges were simply uncomfortable. This is what psychologists describe as accurate risk assessment, the ability to evaluate uncertainty without freezing or overreacting. For this generation, it wasn't an academic concept. It was learned through the body. This is why many people, raised in the 1970s, respond differently to uncertainty as adults. They don't panic at ambiguity. They don't assume all risk is dangerous. They understand that growth often lives just beyond comfort, and they trust themselves to adjust when conditions change. Then there were the long, quiet weekends, mornings with no plans and no expectations, friends unavailable, time stretching forward without urgency, and instead of anxiety, there was acceptance. Hours spent reading the same books repeatedly, building imaginary worlds, drawing, thinking, or simply wandering alone. These moments weren't lonely, they were grounding. Being alone taught an important distinction. Solitude is not absence, and loneliness is not inevitable. This generation learned to enjoy its own company early on. That skill matured into something powerful: self-containment, the ability to sit with oneself without distraction, validation, or performance. Today, mental health research recognizes this as a foundational skill for emotional stability. Emotional intelligence was also shaped in quiet, unobserved moments. A difficult day at school, a misunderstanding with a friend, a disappointment that lingered. There was no instant outlet, no immediate reassurance, no public feedback loop. Emotions had space to rise, peak, and fade naturally. Sitting on a bed, staring at the ceiling, letting feelings move through the body, this became practice in emotional regulation. This was not suppression, it was endurance. You learned that emotions are not emergencies. That discomfort doesn't require immediate resolution, that you can feel something deeply without letting it define you. Modern psychology identifies this ability as one of the strongest predictors of long-term success in relationships, leadership, and stress management. And then there was waiting, real waiting, anticipating a favourite television show for days, planning your schedule around a single broadcast, letting excitement build slowly. And when an episode ended, you waited another week. That rhythm shaped patience. It taught that not everything arrives on demand and that anticipation enhances appreciation. This generation learned that fulfillment doesn't come instantly, that meaningful rewards take time, that waiting is not a failure, it's part of the process. These experiences didn't happen because parents planned them. They happened because the world allowed space. And in that space, something enduring was formed. Calm resilience, emotional balance, and a deep trust in one's own capacity to navigate life. The modern world trains the brain for speed. Answers arrive instantly. Entertainment is always available. Packages appear almost as soon as they're ordered. But for those who grew up in the 1970s, the mind developed under very different conditions. Life unfolded slowly, and patience was not taught, it was required. Moments of joy were meaningful because they were delayed. Holidays felt extraordinary because they came once a year. Summer vacation felt earned after months of routine. Desired possessions carried weight because saving and waiting were part of the process. Neuroscience now confirms what that lifestyle quietly shaped. The ability to delay gratification strengthens emotional stability, reduces impulsive behavior, and supports long-term success in relationships and learning. For this generation, patience wasn't a skill to practice, it was embedded in daily life. That slower rhythm also shaped how failure was experienced. Falling off a bike meant scraped skin and a brief pause, not a permanent stop. Losing a game or missing a goal hurt, but the next opportunity always came. Disappointment was not avoided or softened. It was faced, processed, and followed by another attempt. There was no rush to redefine failure as success, no immediate reassurance to protect self-esteem. And yet, something crucial happened in those moments. Failure became information rather than identity. You learned to ask what went wrong and how to adjust. This mindset, now recognized as resilience, became deeply internalized. When challenges arise later in life, the response is steady rather than dramatic. Problems are approached as solvable, not defining. Social life reinforced these lessons. Childhood friendships unfolded without constant adult mediation. Conflicts weren't instantly resolved by authority figures. Feelings were navigated through conversation, silence, observation, and time. When someone didn't show up as expected, explanations had to be inferred. When disagreements surfaced, solutions had to be negotiated. This environment sharpened social awareness. You learned to notice subtle changes in tone, to recognize when words didn't align with emotions, to sense tension before it was spoken. Over time, this built a sophisticated understanding of human behavior, how people communicate beneath the surface, how group dynamics shift, and when to engage or step back. Contrary to popular belief, this independence did not create emotional distance. It cultivated emotional intelligence. By navigating relationships without constant guidance, children learned empathy, accountability, and self-regulation. These skills didn't come from instruction, they emerged from experience. Now, years later, many from this generation find themselves in a different role. They watch their own children struggle with schoolwork, friendships, or confidence. The instinct to intervene is there, but often they pause, not out of indifference, but out of understanding. They recognize that growth happens through effort, not avoidance. Instead of fixing problems immediately, they create space. They ask reflective questions. They allow discomfort without panic, because they know that shielding children from every challenge doesn't build safety, it builds fragility. Confidence grows when a child discovers they can navigate difficulty and recover from mistakes. This approach values capability over constant comfort. It trusts that manageable struggle strengthens rather than harms. These beliefs are not theoretical. They are rooted in lived experience, shaped by time, freedom, and responsibility. In an age defined by constant stimulation and external validation, this mindset stands apart. It carries a quiet assurance, a belief that life will include uncertainty and that uncertainty is navigable. That boredom can be productive, that setbacks are temporary, that independence creates calm rather than fear. The legacy of the 1970s is not nostalgia, it is evidence. Evidence that resilience grows when space is allowed, that patience deepens appreciation, and that the most effective preparation for life is not protection from difficulty, but the confidence to meet it directly. These individuals carry that confidence with them, not loudly, but steadily. And in a world that rarely slows down, that steadiness may be one of the most valuable strengths of all.